They were the silent hunters of the deep, the steel wolves of the Kriegsmarine, and one of the most feared weapons of World War II today. We dive into the murky depths of history to uncover the story of Nazi Germany as U-boats, their devastating effectiveness, the brutal reality of life aboard, and their ultimate, tragic fate. From the very start of the war, Germany knew it couldn't match the might of the British Royal Navy in a head-to-head battle. So, they turned to a strategy of attrition, a war on supply lines. Their weapon of choice, the Unterseeboot or U-boat. The plan was simple but brutal: starve Britain into submission by sinking the merchant ships that ferried vital food, fuel and war materials across the Atlantic. Life for the men who crewed these underwater predators was a living nightmare. Imagine being sealed in a cramped steel tube with 50 other men for weeks, sometimes months, on end. The air was thick with the stench of diesel fumes, unwashed bodies and stale food. Sunlight was a distant memory. Fresh water was strictly rationed, making proper hygiene impossible. Personal space was non-existent. Sailors shared bunks in a system known as hot bunking, where one man would crawl into a bed still warm from the previous occupant. The food was monotonous, starting with canned goods and preserved meats, and degrading to hardtack and whatever was left. Yet the greatest strain was psychological. Every creak of the hull, every ping of an enemy sonar was a reminder that death was just a thin steel plate away. The constant tension, claustrophobia, and fear were an integral part of a U-boat sailor's life. To endure such conditions, these men were forged through an incredibly demanding training process. It wasn't just about learning the technical skills to operate complex machinery in a submerged metal tube. It was also a brutal test of physical and psychological resilience. They were pushed to their limits, conditioned to accept the cramped, foul environment, and mentally prepared for the very real possibility that their next patrol would be their last. They were trained to be a seamless, efficient crew, where every man knew his job perfectly, because a single mistake could mean a watery grave for everyone. The workhorse of the U-boat fleet was the Type VII. These submarines were not true submersibles in the modern sense. They were essentially surfaced ships that could submerge for limited periods to attack or hide. And for a time, they were terrifyingly successful. Under the command of Admiral Karl Dönitz, the U-boats adopted a tactic known as the Wolfpack. Instead of hunting alone, multiple U-boats would converge on an Allied convoy, coordinating their attacks at night to overwhelm the escorts. This period, from mid-1940 to early 1941, became known to U-boat crews as the happy time. They sank millions of tons of Allied shipping, bringing Britain to the brink of collapse. The names of U-boat aces like Otto Kretschmer and Gunther Prien became legendary in Germany, but the tide began to turn. Starting in 1942, the Allies fought back with a vengeance, fueled by innovation and intelligence. New long-range patrol aircraft, equipped with powerful searchlights and effective radar that could spot a surfaced U-boat from miles away, closed the mid-Atlantic gap where U-boats once roamed freely. Ship-based technology also improved, with high-frequency direction finders, or HUF-DUF pinpointing U-boat radio transmissions, and advanced sonar, or ASDIC, becoming better at detecting submerged submarines. Escort carriers, small aircraft carriers that sailed with the convoys, provided constant air cover, robbing the Wolfpacks of their crucial element of surprise. Perhaps the most devastating blow, however, was dealt in the shadows. Allied codebreakers at Bletchley Park finally cracked the German Enigma machine codes. Suddenly, the Allies could read Dönitz's secret communications to his U-boat fleet. They knew where the Wolfpacks were gathering, what their plans were, and could reroute convoys to avoid them or send hunter-killer groups to intercept them. The hunters had become the hunted. The happy time was a distant memory, replaced by what the Germans called the Black May of 1943, when U-boat losses skyrocketed to unsustainable levels. The price paid by the U-boat crews was staggering. Of the roughly 40,000 men who served in the UBoatTragedy, over 30,000 never returned. That's a mortality rate of over 75%, the highest of any branch of service in any country during the war. For these sailors, a posting to a U-boat was practically a death sentence. Facing mounting losses, German engineers raced to develop new, more advanced submarines. The result was the revolutionary Type XXI, often called the Electro Boot or electric boat. Unlike its predecessors, the Type XXI was a true submarine, designed to spend the majority of its time underwater. It was faster submerged than on the surface, incredibly quiet, and could stay underwater for days thanks to its huge battery capacity. It was a vessel far ahead of its time, a glimpse into the future of submarine warfare, but it was too little, too late. Only a handful of these advanced U-boats saw active service before the war ended, and they were unable to change the strategic outcome of the Battle of the Atlantic. The U-boat war is also filled with strange and tragic stories. Take U1206, a brand new high-tech submarine that sank on its very first patrol because of a toilet. Its advanced high-pressure toilet, designed to work at deep depths, was notoriously complex. A malfunction during a flush caused seawater to flood the battery compartment below, releasing poisonous chlorine gas and forcing the submarine to surface right in the middle of enemy patrols. The crew had to scuttle their own boat. Then there's the incredible story of U864, which holds the grim distinction of being the only submarine in history to be sunk by another submerged submarine. It was torpedoed by the British HMS Venturer off the coast of Norway, and one of the famous Sunken and his U-47. After a string of incredible successes, they vanished without a trace in March 1941. No wreckage, no distress call. To this day, their fate remains one of the great mysteries of the war at sea. When Germany finally surrendered in May 1945, the Allies were faced with a problem: what to do with the hundreds of surrendered U-boats to prevent them from ever being used again, or their technology falling into the wrong hands. The British Royal Navy carried out Operation Deadlight. Over 150 U-boats were towed out into the Atlantic and deliberately sunk, sent to their final resting place at the bottom of the ocean. However, not all were destroyed. The Allies were eager to study the advanced German technology. The United States famously captured U505 on the high seas, and it is now a museum ship in Chicago. The Soviets also took several, including the advanced Type XXI, U2529. The innovations pioneered by the Germans, particularly in the Electro Boot, heavily influenced post-war submarine design for decades, shaping the silent, nuclear-powered leviathans that patrol our oceans today. Even now, the legacy of the U-boats continues to surface. In the 1990s, the wreck of U869 was discovered off the coast of New Jersey, solving a 50-year-old mystery about its fate and revealing a story of a crew lost far from home. The wreck of U864 in Norway presents a modern environmental challenge, as its cargo of nearly 70 tons of toxic mercury still sits on the seabed, threatening a major ecological disaster. These silent steel tombs serve as a powerful and somber reminder of the brutal conflict that raged beneath the waves, and of the thousands of lives lost in the cold, dark depths of the Atlantic. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into history interesting, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel for more stories from the past. See you next time.